Welcome back another episode. Don't forget to subscribe. In The Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 6, Sauron offers Celebrimbor a fresh supply of Mithril, but didn't they run out? Between Sauron's illusions and the Lord of the Region's own mental degeneration, the events surrounding him are starting to get pretty perplexing. Even though much of what is true and what isn't is known to audiences, a few minor things are starting to fall apart. Some of these might allude to what is actually going on in Rings of Power, such as when Sauron produces additional Mithril out of nowhere. As of now in Rings of Power Season 2, the Dark Lord in disguise has been trying to finish the 9 for men, while Celebrimbor and Annatar have finished the 7 dwarf rings. But Sauron has become more and more irritated as barriers keep getting in his way, despite the tremendous amount of work and money that went creating the current Rings of Power. The main problem in Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 6, was that there wasn't enough Mithril, so Annatar went to Khazad-dûm to acquire some. King Durin III was feeling too avaricious to share, which is the problem. Celebrimbor receives additional Mithril from Sauron, but the dwarves won't give it to him. When Annatar, nearly frustrated, traveled to Khazad-dûm to request more Mithril, he was refused. As King Durin could exchange the Mithril for something far more valuable than the lumber Annatar provided, he wished to wait until the elves of a region were actually in need. This implied that the Lord of Gifts would have to go back to Celebrimbor with nothing. Nevertheless, Annatar persuaded Celebrimbor that their 9 rings of power held the key to victory and produced a container brimming with ground Mithril. The huge difficulty in this Rings of Power episode was resolved quite abruptly, suggesting that the problem was never really that big in the first place. Nothing in this situation suggests that anything evil is happening, and Celebrimbor has no reason to believe that Annatar did not obtain the Mithril from the dwarves. Nonetheless, this is a somewhat perplexing shift in direction given the stern no that King Durin delivered. There were far odd things going on than just this in Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 6, which could offer an indication. This was the scene in which Sauron gave Celebrimbor the Mithril. Adar and his orcs had recently besieged a region, sending the city into a terrifying terror. But Sauron used a little power to make the city outside his forge appear tranquil and completely secure when Celebrimbor went to look into it. With laughter from the nearby youngsters, the two stood talking in the beautiful weather as Sauron gave Celebrimbor the Mithril and explained what it was. Like the surroundings, it's possible that the Mithril was really a delusion. Reassuring the elf that he possessed Mithril was a useful technique for Sauron to convince Celebrimbor to return to the forge and resume work. The Lord of a region was still in the planning stage and wasn't quite to the point of actually commencing to craft the 9 rings. Thus, when Sauron eventually obtains the real item, he may have plans to replace the illusion of Mithril with it. Alternatively, it's possible that he changed his mind and chose a different material to create the 9, but he doesn't want Celebrimbor to find out. It's also plausible that Celebrimbor actually received Mithril from Sauron. Given that Sauron's 7 are worn by King Durin III, it could have been quite simple to outwit the dwarf and take some Mithril before departing Khazad-dûm. Knowing that Celebrimbor would never know, the Dark Lord most definitely wouldn't have been above doing so. If this is the case, King Durin III will undoubtedly learn of it. For more videos, subscribe.